Welcome into the late night evening streams. How's the mic audio coming through? We sounding pretty good here. Beep boop boop bop. Beep boop boop beep boop bop. Alright, so we left off on chapter 22. We shall continue from there. 66 chapters in this bitch. A lot. A lot of chapters left. Wait, is there? Yeah, there's 66 chapters. Jesus Christ. Okay, let's start. Chapter 22. Little feet pattered into Azoth's consciousness. It was a strange sound to hear when you were dead, but Azoth couldn't sort it out any other way. Bare little feet on stone. He must be outside, because the sound didn't reverberate against any walls. He tried to open his eyes and failed. Maybe this is what it was to be dead. Maybe you never left your body. Maybe you laid inside your corpse and had to just feel as you slowly decomposed. He hoped dogs didn't get to him, or wolves. He had terrifying dreams of a wolf grinning at him, yellow eyes ablaze. If he were stuck in his dead body, what would happen if they started tearing pieces off of him? Hello, Peter. Would he find oblivion like he'd finally fallen asleep, or would he just split into pieces of consciousness and slowly dissipate into the soil after passing through the bellies of a dozen beasts? Something touched his face, and his eyes leapt open. He heard the startled gasp before his eyes could focus on who made it. It was a little girl, maybe 5 years old. Her eyes so wide they covered half her face. Never seen a corpse? He asked. Father! Father! She shrieked, with all of the surprising volume small children can muster. He groaned as the sound jammed knives into his head, and he fell back onto pillows. Pillows? So he wasn't dead. That was probably supposed to be a good thing. When he woke again, time must have passed, because the room was lit and airy. Wide windows had been thrown open, and cherry wood furnishings and marble flooring gleamed in the sunlight. Azoth recognized the molded ceiling. He'd stared at it before. He was in Count Drake's guest room. Just on my way to bed, thought I'd pop in and say goodnight. All right, Peter. Well, good night to you. Well, if you want to lurk and leave the stream up, that'd be awesome, but I hope you get a good night's rest tonight. Excuse me. Back from the dead, are you? Count Drake asked. He was smiling, seeing the look on Azoth's face. He added, Here, now, sorry. Don't think about that. Don't think about, or at all. Eat. He set a plate full of steaming eggs and ham in front of Azoth, along with a glass of well-watered wine. The food spoke directly with Azoth's stomach, completely bypassing higher cognitive functions. It was several minutes later when he realized the plate and the glass were both empty. Better, the Count said. He sat on the edge of the bed and absently polished his pince-nez. Do you know who I am and where you are? Good. Do you remember who you are? Azoth nodded slowly. Kyler. Been given some messages for you, but if you're not feeling well enough— No, please, Kyler said. Master Thule says that your work now is to get ready for your new life and to get well. To wit. Keep your arse in bed. I expect you to be ready when I come and get you. Kyler laughed. That was Master Brent, all right. When is he coming, then? Troubled look passed over Count's face. Not for a while, but you don't need to worry about that. You'll be living here now, permanently. You'll continue your lessons with your master, of course, but we'll be doing all we can to get the look of the street boy off of you. Your master said to tell you that you aren't going to be well as soon as you expect. There's something else I want to tell you, though, about your little friend. You mean... She's doing well, Kyler. She is. Her new family has named her Eileen. She has good clothes, 3 meals a day. They're good people. They'll love her. She'll have a real life now, but if you're to be of any use to her, you need to get well. Kyler felt as if he were floating. The sunlight streaming through the window seemed brighter, sharper. An arrangement of orange roses and lavender glowed on the sill. He felt good in a way. He felt good in a way he hadn't since before Rat had become Black Dragon's fist. They even took her to a mage and she said she'll be fine, but they couldn't do anything for the scars. Someone had just outlined all his happiness with tar. I'm sorry, son, Count Drake said. But you've done the best you can, and I promise you she'll have a better life than she ever could have on the street. Tyler barely heard him. He stared out the window, away from the Count. Can't pay you yet, not until I start getting my wages again from my master. There's no rush, pay me when you can. Oh, and one last thing your master asked me to pass along, he said. Learn from these people those things that will make you strong, forget the rest. Listen much, speak little, get well, and enjoy this. It may be the only happy time of your life. Tyler was bedridden for weeks. Tried to sleep as much as the Drakes told him to, but he had far too much time. He'd never had time before. He didn't like it. When he'd been on the street, every moment had been spent worrying about his next meal, or worrying about Rat or any of the older boys or girls terrorizing him. With Master Brent, he'd been kept so busy training that he didn't have any time to think. Oh, may I? I'm probably only gonna... excuse me, probably only gonna do about an hour tonight because I'm pretty tired myself. Sitting in bed all day and all night, he had nothing but time. Training was impossible, reading was possible, but still excruciating. For a while, Azoth spent his time becoming Kyler. With the guidelines Master Blint had given him and the facts that anyone checking would find, he had made up more stories about his family. Oh my god, my eyes. Trying to read is just so difficult right now. Tired, man. But I want to continue these reading streams. I think they're really fun. Try this again. Sitting in bed all day and all night, he had nothing but time. Training was impossible, reading was possible, but still excruciating. For a while, Azoth spent his time becoming Kyler. With the guidelines Master Blint had given him and the facts that anyone checking would find, he had made up more stories about his family, the area he was from, and the adventures he'd had, keeping them harmless, the way people like to think 11-year-olds' lives were. He soon mastered that, though, and most of the time thought of himself as Kyler. He was getting to know Count Drake's daughters, too. Lena was the pretty 5-year-old he'd scared half to death when he first woke. Mags was the gangly 8, and Sarah was alternately awkward and aloof. 12. They provided some diversion, but the Countess kept them from bothering Kyler so he could get his rest. The Count and the Countess were fascinating, but Count Drake was working most of the time, and the Countess had definite ideas about 11-year-old boys. It didn't coincide at all with what Kyler knew about 11-year-old boys. He never decided if she knew what he was and pretended not to so she could... Wow, I am struggling. Hold on. He could never decide if she knew what he was and pretended not to so she could reform him, or if the Count Drake had kept her in the dark. She was willowy, fair-skinned, and blue-eyed, an earthly vision of the heavenly beings the Drakes believed in. Like the Count, she had beliefs about serving Kyler herself, as if to prove that she didn't think herself above it. But it wasn't a false humility. When Kyler had gotten terribly ill the first week and vomited all over the floor, she'd come in and help him until he was done shaking. Then she'd roll up her sleeves and cleaned up the vomit herself. He'd been too sick to even be properly horrified until long afterward. He couldn't count the times she'd came in to stuff him with food or check on how he was feeling or to read him stupid kid books. The books were full of valiant heroes who killed evil witches. Children never had to dig through heaps of garbage and vomit outside an inn looking for scraps of edible food. Older boys never tried to bugger them. They never abandoned their friends. The princesses they saved never had their faces battered beyond recognition. No one was ever so badly scarred that a mage couldn't fix it. Kyler hated the stories, but he knew the Countess only wanted the best for him, so he nodded and smiled and cheered when all the heroes won, as they did every time. No wonder all the little nobles want to lead armies. If it were like the books their mothers read, it would be fun. It would be fun if you felt satisfied when the bad guy died, rather than wanting to puke because you saw raw cartilage and gushing blood where you cut off an ear. Blood wafting in a million beautiful swirls with water as he bled to death, held under the water by a rope you'd tied around his ankle. The Countess always interrupted his shaking and nausea after she was done with the stories as a need for more rest. So after raising memories to haunt Kyler's room, she'd leave him with their angry ghosts. Every night Kyler became Azoth. Every night Azoth turned from the repair bay and saw Rat walking toward him, naked, hairy, massive, eyes glowing with lust. Every night Azoth watched Rat splashing into the water, straining against the weight tied to his ankle. Every night he watched Rat carve Dollgirl's face. The nightmares woke him, and he lay in bed fighting the memories. Azoth had been weak, but Azoth was no more. Kyler was strong. Kyler had acted. Kyler would be like Master Blint. He would never be afraid. It was better now. It was better to lie in a bed having nightmares than it was to listen to Jarl getting buggered, weeping. Sleeping again only moved him from one nightmare to another. Day brought little relief, and only slowly did the memories fade. Every morning he told himself that he'd done what he had to, that he'd had to kill Rat, that he'd had to abandon Dollgirl, that he'd had to leave Jarl, that it was the best that he'd never see them again, that he couldn't have known what would happen to Dollgirl. He told himself that life was empty, and that he wasn't taking away anything of value when he took a life. He wouldn't have made it without Logan Gear's visits every other day. Logan would come to see him, inevitably, with Sarah Drake. At first, Kyler thought he came because he still felt guilty, but that soon passed. They enjoyed each other's company, and they became fast friends. Logan was strange. He was as smart as Jarl, and he'd read hundreds of books. Kyler didn't think he would survive for a week in the Warrens, but at the same time he spoke about court politics as if it were all so easy. He knew the names, histories, friends, and enemies of scores of courtiers, and knew the major life events and important motivations of every highly ranked noble in the kingdom. Half the time Kyler didn't know if he didn't understand what Logan was talking about because it was all part of the courtly life he'd never known, or just because Logan liked to use big words. Wow, that was a big word. A sesquipedalian, he called himself, whatever that meant. Let's look it up. Sesquipedalian. I know I pronounced it really easy to spell too. Sesquipedalian, characterized by long words, long-worded. The sesquipedalian prose of scientific journals. Oh. Tending to use very long and ponderous, polysyllabic.
Sesquipedalian.
Sesquipedalian. That's sesquipedalian. Got another funny one. Alright, moving on from sesquipedalian. Nonetheless, the friendship worked, and Sarah Drake helped it work by happening to stop by often so she could be with Logan. She filled in the gaps. Kyler couldn't count the times he sat silent because he hadn't understood some reference Logan had made. The silence would begin to stretch, but before Logan could ever ask him why he didn't understand, Sarah would get uncomfortable and launch into something else entirely. Chatter might have driven Kyler mad if he hadn't been so thankful for it. Anyway, maybe this was how noble girls were. Kyler was sitting in bed one morning after having spent another night cowering under the covers. He dreamed that he had been the one beating Dollgirl and that it had been his feet kicking her in exultation. An exultation writhed in his eyes as her beauty melted in the heat of his fury. Count Drake came in. His fingers were ink-stained, and he looked tired. He pulled a chair close to the bed. "We think the danger's past," he said. "Excuse me?" Kyler said. "I'm sorry, we've had to keep you in the dark, Kyler, but we had to make sure you didn't do anything rash. In the past few weeks, there have been a number of attempts on your master's life, and consequently, there are now 4 fewer wet boys in the city. After 3 attempts, your master let the king know that if there were any more attempts, the king would die next." "Master Blink killed the king?" Kyler asked. "Shh! Don't say that name, not even here," Count Drake said. "One of the 9, Dabin Vasha, the man in charge of the Sakage's smuggling, heard about your master's threat to the king. He decided it would be a good time to make his own play for power and sent a wet boy after Durzo, thinking Durzo would either be killed or would kill the king in retaliation. Durzo found out and killed both the wet boy and Vasha." "You mean all this has been happening while I've been lying in bed?" There was no way you could help, Count Drake said. But what did Dab and Vasha have against my master, Kyler said. Kyler had never even heard the name. I don't know, maybe nothing. That's the way the Sakage works, Kyler. There are plots within plots, and most of them go nowhere. Most of them take one step, and then they die, like this one. And if you worry about what everyone is trying to do, you become a spectator and not a player. Anyway, the king's learned of the last attempt on your master's life and has become very frightened. Usually this would be good news, but he's rather clumsily consolidating his power. Logan is going to have to spend a while out of the city. He was just starting to be my friend, Kyler said. Believe me, son, a man like Logan Gear will be your friend for life. Someone slept. Oh, actually, let's take a break. Chapter 23 is what we're moving on to. Take a little sip of our tea, so still sleepy time tea, chamomile. But the creamer we have this time is white chocolate mocha. Good stuff. You can never go wrong with the sleepy time tea in the evening times when we do these streams. Really fun. Been rain all day. Like off and on, but pretty much. But we're getting into the nitty-gritty of this book finally. I've been looking into the first book for the Avery Cates series by Jeff Sommers. Excuse me. This is ridiculous, mind you. It's a paperback book, and it's, I think, a little bit thinner than this one. It's not as long. $40 fucking dollars. It's the cheapest one I could find. Paperback. I was like, what the fuck? $40? That's ridiculous. So yeah, it's gonna take me a minute. So hopefully I can get that one and the last one of the Night Angel trilogy so we could finish, because I'm gonna read the Night Angel trilogy on stream. I'm gonna finish this on stream. But anything after that, we are going to do members only on YouTube. And it's $2.99 to join, but the members only videos I'm gonna do, you'll have one live stream a month, the Tarnished Maidens with Elden Ring. Me and one of my friends, we just literally play Elden Ring, chat, whatever comes to mind, just play the game and have fun. It's raw, it's real. And then I will be doing at least 2 reading streams a month too, along with the members only live stream for members only, so you guys can get like cool sound effects or something. But I'm going to try to keep those each to at least an hour episode and make it a little easier. If I'm going to go in and I'm going to have to edit these, I'm going to be listening to a lot in a long time of videos. I'm tired. I'm not making sense. I'm going to listen to a long length of videos, so I'm going to try to keep it at a decent hour and a half maybe. But yeah. Chapter 23. Someone slapped Kyler, not gently. Wake up, boy. Kyler clawed his way out of a nightmare and saw the face of Master Blint a foot away, about to slap him again. Master, he stopped. Master Thule? Good to see you remember me, Kyler, Master Blint said. Master Blint got up and shut the door. I don't have much time. Are you well yet? Don't lie to me, please. Still a little weak, sir, but I'm getting better. Kyler's heart was pounding. He'd been desperate to see Master Blint for weeks. Now that he was here, Kyler was inexplicably angry. He'd probably feel terrible for a few more weeks. Either the Kinderperil and Avoridia pace interacted in a way I didn't expect, or it might have been something to do with your talent. What's that mean, the talent? Kyler asked. His words were sharper than he intended, but Blint didn't seem to notice. Well, if it was that, Master Blint shrugged, sometimes a body doesn't react well to magic at first. I mean, what does it mean? Will I be able to fly, become invisible, scale walls, throw fire, walk as a god among mortals? Blint smirked, doubtful. I was going to ask if I'll be able to move as fast as you do. Again, the edge came into his voice. I don't know yet, Kyler. You'll be able to move faster than most men without the talent, but there aren't many who are as gifted as I am. What will I be able to do then? You're weak, Kyler. We'll talk about this later. I don't have anything to do. I can't even get out of bed. No one tells me anything. Fine, it means everything and nothing, Master Blint said. In Wadrin, or Alaterra, they'd call you a mage, and six different schools would fight over where and what you should study, and what color robes you should wear. In Lodrakar or Calador, they'd call you a Meister, and you'd grow the fur on your arms like tattoos, and worship your king as a god while you plotted how to stab his royal back. In Ymir, you'd be a stalker, an honored and honorable hunter of animals and sometimes men. In Friaku, you'd be Gorathi, a furied warrior, invincible in your clan, and one day a king versed in the arts of subjugation and slavery. In the west, well, you'd be in the ocean. He grinned. Kyler didn't. The mages guess, they say hypothesize, to make it more respectable, that different countries produce different talents. That's why men with pale skin and blue eyes become witches, while swarthy men are warrior Gorathi. They say that's why the only mages they get from Gandu are healers. They say men with yellow skin who can heal and proclaim that yellow skin means healing, but they're wrong. Our world is divided, but the talent is one. Every people recognizes some form of magic, except for the Lanat, who hate magic and simultaneously don't believe in it. But that's a different subject. But every people has its own expectations about magic. Gandu once produced some of the most destructive archmagi the world has known. They saw horrors you couldn't imagine, and because of that, they turned away from magic as weaponry. The only magic they value is healing magic. So as centuries have passed, they've added greatly to their knowledge of healing magics and lost most others. A Gandian, who is greatly talented with fire, is ashamed to himself and his family. So we'd never hear about him, Kyler said. Right. There's an intersection between what the people around you know well enough to teach, what you're naturally good at, and what it is possible for you to learn. So the talent both is what it is, and it is what it has to be, like your mind. Kyler just looked at him. Take it this way. Some people can add long lists of numbers to their heads, right? And some can speak a dozen languages. To do that, they have to be smart, right? Right. But just because you can learn and to add lists of numbers doesn't mean you will. But a woman who handles account books and has a gift for numbers can. Or a diplomat might have a gift for languages, but he never learns another language. He'd still only know one. Tyler nodded. The woman with a head for numbers could probably learn another language if she worked hard enough, but she'll never be fluent in a dozen. The man will never be able to add columns of numbers mentally. Do you see where this is going? Tyler thought. And Master Blint waited. We know that I'm talented, but not how or how much, so you can't tell what I'll be able to do. Right, Master Blint said. From having me teach you, you'll definitely learn some things. You need to hide, your talent will bend some light away. You need to walk quietly, it will muffle your steps, but like any talent, it has limits. If you walk in the noonday sun, you'll be seen. If you step on dry leaves, you'll be heard. You're talented, you're not a god. You might have the smoothest tongue in the world, but if you swear at the king, you'll meet the headsman. If I know 12 languages and you speak to me in a 13th, I won't know what you're saying. Sometimes you do listen, Master Blint said. I have to go now. Count Drake will take care of you. He's a good man, Kyler. Too good. You can trust him with your life. Just don't get him started on your soul. And think of yourself as Kyler always. Azoth is dead. Dead? That released all the memories and fear and anger that had been building up in Kyler, like pressing a trigger plate of a crossbow. Just like that, his mask fell away, and he was Azoth once more. Azoth grabbed Master Blint's arm. I really did. No, you didn't. Does this look like hell? Blint gestured. Ha! They wouldn't let me visit heaven. But Azoth could remember looking down at a knife sticking out of his chest. It had seemed so real. How could such a thing be? I couldn't work for them, Master Blint said. I'd be a bloody sword to them. They wouldn't be able to clean me. They wouldn't be able to sheath me. They'd have me killed eventually. It's easier for you. It's easier to keep your eye on your enemies than on your friends. So you've been killing wet boys? Azoth asked, trying to get a hold of himself. For weeks he'd been keeping himself from thinking about that afternoon. But now he couldn't hold it back. He remembered the look in the Lord General's eyes, the utter shock. He remembered following those eyes to his own chest. Nobody good would take the job on me. Men like Rabble and Gibbet and Severing get paid too well doing regular jobs to risk their lives taking on a real wet boy. Now remember, you're a Stern. You're proud of that. Even if you are poor, the Sterns are barons, so they're upper nobility, but at the lowest level. I know, Azoth said, cutting him off. I know. Was it just his imagination? Or had Master Blint just looked guilty? The wet boy fished in a pocket and popped a garlic clove in his mouth. If it were anyone else, Azoth would have sworn he was trying to distract him. Rushing to get out of the room before Azoth could pin him down. Why was I so eager to please a man who was willing to murder me? I thought he cared. In the weeks that he'd been here, in bed, Kyler had been alone. He'd left everything of his old life. He'd had real friends in Jarl and Dollgirl. They had cared about him. Now he was pretending to be friends with Logan Gear. And even he had left. Not even Mama Kay came to visit. It almost physically hurt when the Count and Countess came in at the same time. They so obviously loved each other. They were safe and happy and real together. Even Logan and Sarah sometimes traded looks that made it obvious they liked each other. Those looks, that love, filled Kyler with a yearning so deep he thought his chest was going to cave in. It wasn't just hunger. A Guildrat knew hunger like he knew the sewers where he huddled for warmth in the winter. Hunger wasn't comfortable, but it was familiar, and it was nothing to fear. This was a thirst, like his whole body was parched, drying up, about to crumple. He was dying of thirst on the shores of the world's biggest lake. None of it was for him. To him, that lake was an ocean. It was a salt sea that if he drank would make him thirstier, and thirstier until he went mad and died. Love was death for a wet boy. Madness and weakness and vulnerability and death. Not just for the wet boy himself, but also for anyone he loved. Eventually, everything about Azoth's life was dead. He'd sworn that he'd never love, and he'd never seen anything like what he Count and Countess shared when he'd promised that. It would be tolerable if anyone cared about him at all. In the time he'd been with Master Blant, he started to think that the wet boy liked him, cared about him. He'd believed that sometimes Master Blant was even proud of him. Even though everything about the gray-haired Lord General was foreign to Azoth, there was something right in the outrage and disbelief that had been in his eyes when Master Blint stabbed Azoth. He shouldn't have done it. Azoth burst into tears. How could you do it? What's wrong with you? It wasn't right. Blint was caught off guard for a moment, then he was suddenly furious. He grabbed Azoth's tunic and shook him. Damn you! Use your head! If you aren't smarter than this, I should have killed you. Did he believe me when I said I didn't care if they killed you? Azoth looked away, admitting it. You planned it all along. Of course I did. Why do you think we bleached your hair? The only way to save you. Azoth had to die so Kyler could live. Otherwise, they had to hold. Any attachment you make in this life will be used against you. That's why you're strong, sorry. That's why 4 wet boys couldn't kill me, because I have no attachments. That's why you can't fall in love. It makes you weak. As soon as you find something you can't walk away from, you're trapped. Doomed. If anyone thinks I give the hair on a rat's ass what happened to you, you become a target for everyone. How does he do it? How is he so strong? Now look at my damn hands. Blint held them up. Both were empty. He made a fist and smacked it down on one arm. A bloody dagger sprouted from the opposite side. He jerked his hand away and the knife pulled back through his flesh. Then it frayed apart like smoke and disappeared. I have a small talent with illusions, Kyler. I did a better job with yours because I had to sell it. But all I did was hit you in the back with a knockout needle, then hold the illusion until it took effect. But I felt it, Kyler said. He was regaining his balance. The tears were gone. He was thinking of himself as Kyler again. Sure, you felt it. You felt me hit you, and you saw a dagger coming out of your chest. At the same time, your body was trying to fight off a dozen minor poisons. You made what sense of it you could. It was a gamble. That illusion used up almost all of the power I can use in a day. If Aegon's men had stormed the place, we would have been finished. The poison I used wreaked havoc with your body. They could have killed you. Again, a gamble I had to make. Master Blint does care what happens to me. It hit him like lightning. Master Blint had risked using up his power to save Azoth. Even if it were just the affection a master might have for a talented apprentice, Blint's approval washed over Azoth, Kyler, as if the wet boy had given him a hug. No adult had ever cared what happened to him. The only other person who'd ever risked anything for him was Jarl, and Jarl was a part of another life. Truth was, Azoth hated Azoth. Azoth was a coward, passive, weak, afraid, disloyal. Azoth had hesitated. Master Blint didn't know it, but the poisons on the needle had killed Azoth. He was Kyler now, and Kyler would be everything Azoth hadn't dared to be. In that moment, Azoth became Kyler, and Kyler became Blint's. If he had ever obeyed his master half-heartedly before or out of fear, he had ever fantasized about one day coming back and killing him for how hard the training was, it all dried up and blew away now. Master Blint was being hard on Kyler because life was hard. Life was hard, but Blint was harder, stronger, tougher than anything the Warrens could have thrown at him. He forbade love because love would destroy Kyler. Master Blint knew better than Kyler did. He was strong, and he would make Kyler strong. He was fierce, and Kyler would be fierce. But it was all for Kyler. It was all to protect him, to make him the best wet boy he could be. So it wasn't love. So what? It was something maybe nobles got to live on the shores of that lake and drink at their pleasure. That life had been decreed for a guild rat. Kyler's life was a desert life. But there is life in the desert, and a small oasis had Kyler's name on it. There was no room for Azoth. The oasis was too small, and Azoth was too thirsty. But Kyler could do it. Kyler would do it. He'd make Master Blint proud. Good, Master Blint said. Of course he couldn't see what Kyler was thinking. Kyler knew the eagerness in his eyes was unmistakable. Now, boy, are you ready to become a sword in the shadows? Dun, dun, dun. Chapter 24. We will be halfway once we reach chapter 33. We are literally 9 chapters. Wait, 12 chapters, my bad. I'm not gonna let this T-do be bussing right now. So Baby Sin's ear is doing good. We still got the money to take her in. I'm just waiting till I can like clean her up. She's okay. She's good. I just need to get drops to get the mites to go away. I think what I'm gonna do, because I think like 2 other kitties are having the same ear issues, so I'm gonna get the medicine from her and kind of space it out between them and see if I can order another thing of it. But yeah, everybody's doing good. Trumpy's doing good. I actually got in here somewhere. No, Yoshi's literally right down over here. He's sleeping. I hope all is well. Oh my goodness. I said I was going to read for about an hour. We're almost there. Take a break in between chapters. Take a few drinks of tea, water, chat it up a minute. Tomorrow, try to record some videos because I got a lot to record. Either record or get the ones I do have edited because I have like 2 more to edit. I got the last 2 videos of Outlast Whistleblower coming up, so I don't know if I'll have those by Wednesday and Friday or if it'll be for next week. I'm hoping next week so I can spend this week getting everything sorted. I'm sorry, the schedule for uploading videos has been all over. I'm still trying to work out getting these reading streams sorted and getting back into recording on Wednesdays mornings and having my live stream in the evenings, spending Tuesdays and Thursdays editing. I need to get back on finishing up my cosplay. Still have a lot to do on that. I do, but I don't. It's just tedious work. Alright. 20 minutes in chapter 24. Get up, boy. It's time to kill. Tyler was awake instantly. He was 14 years old. Training had sunk in enough that he went through his survival checklist instantly. For each question, there was only a terse answer. Each sensation got only a briefest moment of his attention. What woke you? Voice. What do you see? Darkness, dust, afternoon light, shack. What do you smell? Blint, sewage, the plith. What do you feel? Warm blanket, fresh straw, my bed. No warning tingles. Can you move? Yes. Where are you? Safe house. Was there danger? The last question, of course, was the culmination. He could move, his weapons were in their sheaths. All was well. That wasn't guaranteed, not even here. In this dingy safe house in the shadow of one of the few sections of the ancient aqueduct that was still standing. More than once, Durzo had tied a sword to the ceiling over Kyler's bed, and the damn thing was nearly invisible when you had to look at it point first. Durzo had woken Kyler, and when he didn't recognize the danger within 3 seconds, Durzo had cut the rope. Fortunately, he clapped the point that first time, and the second time, and the third time he didn't. Another time, Durzo had Scarred Rabble, only Durzo called him Ben, wake Skylar. Scarred Rabble had even worn Durzo's clothes and mimicked his voice perfectly. That was a part of Scarred Rabble's talent. That time, Kyler hadn't been caught. Even a garlicky meal didn't give a man the same smell as chewing the clove straight. Decoding Durzo's words came last. Time to kill. Think I'm ready? Kyler asked, his heart pounding. You were ready a year ago. I just needed the right job for your first solo. What is it? I was ready a year ago? Flint's compliments came like that. When they came at all. Usually, even a grudging compliment would be followed by some criticism. It's at the castle, and it's got to be finished today. Your debtor is 26 years old. No military training, shouldn't be armed. But he's well liked, a busy little bee. Very busy. An assassin would incur ancillary fatalities. He said assassin with a sneer, as would any wet boy. But it doesn't matter for the contract. The debtor is just has to die. Just finish the job. Kyler's heart pounded. So this was how it was going to be. This wasn't a simple test. It wasn't. Can Kyler kill Solo? It was. Can Kyler do what a wet boy does? Can Kyler decide a suitable entry strategy? To the castle itself, no less. Can he kill Solo? Can he do it without killing innocents? Can he get out after the hit? Oh, and can he use his talent? The true measure of what separates a wet boy from his common assassin. How the hell does Blink come up with these things? The man had a brilliance for ferreting out and exploiting Kyler's weaknesses, especially his biggest weakness of all. Kyler hadn't been able to use the talent. Not yet. Not even once. Should have quickened by now, Blint said. He was forever pushing Kyler in new ways, hoping that some new extreme stress of need might bring it out of him. Nothing had worked yet. Durzo had wondered aloud if he should just kill Kyler. Instead, he decided that as long as Kyler could do everything a wet boy could do, Durzo would keep training him. He promised that it would ultimately fail. It was impossible. A wet boy wasn't a wet boy without talent. Who took out the contract? Kyler asked. Doshinga. You're trusting me with that? You're going in this afternoon. If you fuck it up, I go in tonight, and I bring the Shinga 2 heads. Kyler didn't have to ask who the other head would belong to. What did the debtor do? You don't need to know. Does it matter? Sec. Poor Oofy's got stuck here. Alright. What did the debtor do? You don't need to know. Does it matter? A knife appeared in Durzo's hand, but his eyes weren't violent. He was thinking. He flipped the knife from finger to finger. Finger, 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 stop. Finger, 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 roll. Kyler had seen a bard do that once with a coin, but only Durzo used a knife. No, Durzo said. It doesn't. Name's Devon Corgi. And let's just say that when most people try to run away from the darkness, they want to take a few bags packed with goodies with them. Slows him down. They never make it. I've only known one man in all my life who was willing to pay the full price of leaving the Sakage. Who was it? Boy, in 2 hours, you've got a date with a debtor. You've got better questions to ask. Devon Corgi. The guard furrowed his brow. Nah, don't know him. Hey, Gamble, you know a Devon Corgi? He asked another guard walking through the castle's enormous west gate. It's almost too easy. Kyler had long ago stolen the tunic and bag that was the uniform of the city's most widely used courier service. People who didn't have their own servants employed boys, East Side boys, never guild rats, to take their messages. Whenever guards had looked like they might ask questions, Kyler walked up to them and asked for directions. Don't they know? Can't they see? These men were guards. They were supposed to be protecting Devon Corgi and everyone else in here. They were going to direct a killer right to him? How could they be so dumb? It was an uneasy feeling of power. It was gratifying that all the hours with Brent were definitely doing something. Kyler was becoming dangerous. And yet, how could they not see what he was? Sure, he's the one came in all this week with his eye twitching, jumping at shadows. I think he's up the North Tower. If you want me to take your message, I could. I'm on duty in 10 minutes. It's the first stop on my rounds. No thanks, I'm hoping for a good tip. Which way is it? As the guard gave Kyler directions, he tried to formulate his plan. Kill itself shouldn't be hard. A kid could get much closer than a grown-up before he roused suspicion. And then it would be too late. The hard part was finding the man. Devon didn't just have an office somewhere, he moved around. That added all sorts of risk, especially because Kyler needed to get the kill done today. North Tower sounded good, isolated. The guard coming sounded bad. Kyler had just talked to the man and told him who he was looking for. With the makeup Brent had used on him, Kyler looked totally different and younger by years, but it was the best to let every death be a mystery. A wet boy leaves corpses, not evidence. So Kyler would find Corgi and hide until the guard came and left. Then he'd kill him. In and out, no problem, even without the talent. The castle was awe-inspiring. Though Brent always spoke of it with scorn, it was the most magnificent building Kyler had ever seen. It was the same black granite as the old aqueducts in the Warrens, quarried in the mountains on the Syrian border. The entire quarrying industry was owned by the Sakage, so now only the wealthy could afford to build with stone. It was one of the reasons most of the aqueduct pillars were gone now. The non-Sakage poor in the Warrens scavenged the rock for their own use, or their own black market sale. Bilking the Sakage entailed distant dangers to the middle class. The castle had been built 400 years ago, when for the 30 years of King Abanaze's rule. I swear to God, it's not me. It's probably the person who wrote this damn book sometimes. Castle had been built 400 years ago, when for 30 years the King Abanaze's rule scenario was a major power. He had barely finished the castle when he decided to push further east and take the Chantry, and several thousand Magi had ended his ambitions permanently. The castle had first been constructed on a Motte and Bailey design at least 100 years earlier. Surrounded by the natural moat of the Plith River, Voss Island had been built up into a larger hill on top of which sat the fortress. What was now the north side of the Warrens had been the original Bailey. The Warrens were on a narrow peninsula that dropped off sharply into the sea except for the last half mile, which flattened out before the shoreline. The design was so defensible that neither the wood fortress nor the wood-walled Warrens had ever been taken, but the city had expanded along with King Abanaze's pride. So Castle Scenaria had been built of stone, and the city jumped to the east shore of the Plith. The aqueducts, however, were a mystery. They had been here long before King Abanaze, and seemed to serve no purpose as the Plith was freshwater, if not terribly clean. Leaving the diamond-shaped castle yard, Kyler walked up stone stairs that had been climbed by so many feet over the centuries that the middle of each step dipped several inches lower than the sides. The guards ignored him, and he assumed the attitudes of a servant. It was one of his most frequent guises. Brent liked to say that a good disguise cloaked a wet boy better than the shadows. Kyler could walk right past almost anyone he knew with the exception of Count Drake. Not much escaped him. Soon he passed through most of the buzz of activity that filled the inner yard and the great hall. He went past the lines of people waiting for an audience in the throne room, past the double open doors of the gardens, and made his way to the North Tower. The halls were busy everywhere until he stepped into the North Tower antechamber. Devon Corgi wasn't there. For the first time taking pains to be silent, Kyler opened the door that led to the stairs and climbed them quietly. The stairway was blank. Nothing decorative, no niches, no statues, no ornamental curtains or anything that would afford Kyler a place to hide. He made his way to the top of the tower. It was, it seemed, just a large bedchamber, currently not being used. The young man balancing a large ledger book was going through the drawers of a bureau, apparently taking an inventory of the neatly folded sheets of the enormous featherbed and the alternate curtains for the large shuttered window. Kyler waited. Devon was turned sideways to the door, and without the talent to shadow Kyler's approach, there was a good chance the man would see him enter. The waiting was always the worst. Keyed up with no place to go, Kyler began to entertain fantasies that the guard was going to come up the stairs at any minute. Seeing him here, this late, he'd search him. Searching him, he'd find the slit in Kyler's trousers. Finding that hand-sized slit, he'd find the long knife strapped to Kyler's inner thigh. And there was nothing for it. But there was nothing for it. Kyler waited just out of sight, listening, willing his ears to hear even the scritch of the quill on the ledger. Finally, he checked and saw Devon disappearing into the closet on the far side of the nearly circular chamber. Kyler crept into chamber and looked for a place to hide. Feet made no sound, not even the sound of leather scuffing against stone. Master Brent had taught Kyler how to boil the sap of the rubber tree to make a shoe sole that was soft and silent. It was expensive to import and only a little quieter than properly worked leather, but to Master Blint even the smallest margin mattered. It was why he was the best. There were no good places to hide. A great place to hide was one where Kyler would be able to see the entire room, keep his weapons at ready, and be able to move quickly either to strike or to escape. Good place to hide gave a decent view and the ability to strike or escape with only a little difficulty. The room had no dark corners. It was practically a circle. There were rice paper screens, but they'd been folded and were leaning against the wall. Pitifully, the only place to hide was under the bed. If Kyler were a wet boy, perhaps he could have vaulted up the wall and dangled off the chains of the chandelier, but that wasn't an option. Under the bed? Master Blint will never let me live this down. There was no other option. Kyler dropped flat onto his toes and fingertips, crawled under the bed. It was good he was still slight, because there wasn't much space. He was uncomfortably in place when he heard someone coming up the stairs. The guard, finally. Now take a quick look and get the hell out. He'd chosen the side of the bed with a view of the closet, and that meant he didn't have a view of the stairs. But from the sound of the footsteps, he'd become certain that it wasn't a guard. Devon stepped out of the closet, holding a chest, and guilt flashed across his face. "Can't be here, Bev," he said. "You're leaving," the unseen woman said. It was an accusation. "No," he said. His eyes started twitching. "You stole from them, and now you're stealing from the king, and for some reason I'm surprised you'd lie to me, you asshole." Kyler heard her turn, and then Devon was stepping close to the bed, putting the chest down on it, his legs just inches away from Kyler. "Bev, I'm sorry." He was moving toward the door, and Kyler was stricken with panic. What if Devon went after her, and she went down the steps? Kyler would have to kill both of them on the stairs, knowing that the guard would be coming along any minute. "Bev, please, go to hell," she said, and slammed the door. Wish granted. It was the blackest kind of humor. Durzo's kind of humor. He liked to say that the irony of overheard conversations was one of the best perks of the bitter business. Though he said that the wisdom of last words was highly overrated. Wish granted? Kyler didn't like that he'd even thought that. Everything this man had planned was about to end, and Kyler was smirking about it. Devon swore to himself, but he didn't follow the woman. Where's that guard, anyway? He was supposed to be here by now. This was what it was like, Durzo had told Kyler. You come in at the end of the drama, whether it's just started or has been going on for years. Your arrival signals the end. You rarely get to know what the story was about. Who was Bev to Devon? His lover? His partner in crime? Just a friend? His sister? Kyler didn't know. He'd never know. There was jingling on the stairs, muffled behind the door. Devon picked up his ledger. The door opened. "'Lo, Dev," the guard said. "Oh, hello, Gamble." Devon sounded nervous. "That courier find you? Courier? Little shite must have got lost. Everything fine up here?" "Sure, just fine. See you around." Devon waited until the guard had been gone 30 seconds, and then he stepped close to the bed and started stuffing his pockets. Kyler couldn't see with what. Here it is. The guard would be far enough away by now that if Devon managed to cry out, he wouldn't be heard. Devon stepped away from the bed toward the bureau, and Kyler crawled out from beneath the bed like a bug. He stood and drew the knife. Devon was mere paces away. Kyler's heart was pounding. He thought he could hear the rush of blood in his ears. Kyler did everything right. Low, ready stance, advancing quietly but quickly, balanced so that if at any moment the debtor reacted, Kyler wouldn't be caught flat-footed. He brought the knife up to eye level, preparing to grab Devon and give him what Durzo called the red grin, a slash across the jugular and deep through the windpipe. Then he imagined Doggerel giving him the look she'd given him when he took the biggest piece of bread for himself. "What are you doing, Azoth? You know this is wrong." He recovered late, and it was as if his training abandoned him. Kyler was inches away from Devon, and Devon still hadn't hurt him, but the very nearness panicked Kyler. He stabbed for Devon's neck and must have made some sound because Devon was turning. The knife bit into the back of Devon's neck, hit spine, and bounced out. Because of his convulsively tight grip that Durzo would have beaten Kyler for, the knife bounced right out of his hand, too. Devon turned and yelped. It seemed he was more surprised by Kyler's sudden appearance than by the sting in his neck. He stepped back at the same time Kyler did. He put the hand to his neck, looked at his fingers, and saw the blood. Then they both looked down to the knife. Devon didn't go for it. Kyler scooped up the knife, and as he stood, Devon dropped down to his knees. "Please," he said, "please don't." It seemed incredible. The man's eyes were big with fear, looking at little Kyler, whose disguise made him look even smaller and younger. There was nothing frightening about him, was there? But Devon looked like a man who's seen his judgment come. His face was white, eyes round, pitiful, helpless. "Please," he said again. Kyler slashed his throat in a fury. Why hadn't he protected himself? Why didn't he even try? He was bigger than Kyler. He had a chance. Why must he act like a sheep? Big stupid human lamb, too dumb to even move. The cut was through the windpipe, but barely clipped one jugular. It was deep enough to kill, but not fast. Kyler grabbed Devon's hair and slashed again, twice, slightly up so the blood shot down rather than up. Not a drop got on Kyler. He'd done it just like Durzo had taught. There was a sound on the stairs. "Devon, I'm sorry," Bev said before she even got into the room. "I just had to come back. I didn't mean—" She stepped into the room and saw Kyler. She saw his face. She saw the dagger in his hand. She saw him holding the dying Devon by his hair. She was a plain young woman wearing a white serving dress, wide hips, wide-spaced eyes, mouth open in a little O, and beautiful raven hair. Finished the job. The training took hold. Kyler was across the room in an instant. He yanked the woman forward, swept a foot in, pivoted, and she flipped over to the ground. He was as inexorable as Durzo. The woman was beneath him, face down on the carpet that covered his section of floor. The next move was to slide the knife between her ribs. She'd hardly feel it. He wouldn't have to see her face. He hesitated. It was his life against hers. She'd seen him. His disguise was good only as long as no one knew there was a 14-year-old murder about. She'd seen his face. She had intruded on a debtor. She was just collateral damage, an ancillary fatality, Flint said. A wet boy would do what he needed to be done. It was less professional, but sometimes unavoidable. "It doesn't matter," Flint had said. "Just finish the job." Flint only allowed him to live so long as he proved he could do everything. A wet boy did, even without the talent. Yet here she was, face down, Kyler straddling her on the floor, the point of the dagger pricking her neck, his left hand twisting her hair, trying not to imagine the red blood blooming on her while on her white servant's dress. She'd done nothing. Life is empty. Life is meaningless. When we take a life, we aren't taking anything of value. I believe it. I believe it. There had to be another way. Could he tell her to run? To tell no one? To leave the country and never come back? Would she do it? No, of course not. She'd run to the nearest guard. As soon as she was in the presence of some burly castle guard, any fear Kyler might inspire in her would look as small and weak as a guild rat with a knife. "I told him what would happen if he stole from the Sakage," she said, her voice oddly calm. "That bastard. With everything else he took from me, he didn't even have the decency to die alone. I was coming to apologize, and now you're going to kill me, aren't you? Yes, Kyler said. But he was lying. He had moved the knife to the correct place on her back, but it refused to move. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a shadow shift on the stairs. He didn't move, didn't acknowledge that he'd seen it, but he felt a chill. It was the middle of the afternoon. There were no torches burning now, no candles. That shadow could only be Master Blint. He'd followed Kyler. He'd watched everything. The job was for the Shinga, and it wouldn't be botched. Kyler slid the knife between her ribs, pulled it sideways, felt the shudder and the sigh of the woman dying beneath him. He stood and pulled the knife from her flesh. His mind suddenly detached, pulling away from him as it had the day in the boat shop with Rat. He wiped the red blade on her white dress, sheathed it along his thigh, checked himself in the room's mirror for blood, just like he'd been taught. It was all the sorrow in the world to him that he was clean. There wasn't any blood on his hands. When he turned, Blint stood in the open doorway, arms folded. Kyler just looked at him, still hovering somewhere between his own body, glad for the numbness. Not great, Durzo said, but acceptable. The Shinga will be pleased. He pursed his lips, seeing the distance in Kyler's eyes. Life is meaningless, Durzo said, rolling a garlic clove between his fingers. Life is empty. When we take a life, we take nothing of value. Kyler stared at him blankly. Repeat it, damn you! Durzo's hand moved and a knife blurred through the air, thunking into the bureau behind Kyler. He didn't even flinch. He repeated the words mechanically, fingers a tingle, feeling again and again that easy slip of meat parting around the knife. Was it so easy? Was it so simple? You just pushed and death came? Nothing spiritual about it. Nothing happened. No one was whisked to Count Drake's heaven or hell. It just stopped. They stopped talking, stopped breathing, stopped moving, finally stopped twitching. Stopped. That pain you feel, Master Blint said almost gently, is the pain of abandoning a delusion. The delusion is meaning, Kyler. There is no higher purpose. There are no gods, no arbiters of right and wrong. I don't ask you to like reality. I only ask you to be strong enough to face it. There is nothing beyond this. There is only the perfection we attain by becoming weapons, as strong and merciless as a sword. There is no essential good in living. Life is nothing in itself. The place marker that proves who's winning, and we are the winners. We are always the winners. There is nothing but the winning. Even winning means nothing. We win because it's an insult to lose. The ends don't justify the means don't justify the ends. There is no one to justify to. There is no justification. There is no justice. Do you know how many people I've killed? Kyler shook his head. Me neither. I used to. I remembered the name of every person I killed outside a battle. Then it was too many. I just remembered the number. Then I remembered only the innocents. Then I forgot even that. Do you know what punishments I've endured for my crimes? My sins? None. I am proof that the absurdity of men's most treasured abstractions, a just universe, wouldn't tolerate my existence. He took Kyler's hands. On your knees, he said. Kyler knelt at the edge of the pool of the blood seeping from the woman's body. This is your baptism, Master Blint said, putting both of Kyler's hands in the blood. It was warm. This is your new religion. You must worship as the other wet boys do. Worship Nisos, god of blood, semen, and wine. At least those have power. Nisos is alive, like all of the gods, but at least he won't make you weak. Today, you've become an assassin. Now get out, and don't wash your hands. And one more thing. When you've got to kill an innocent, don't let them talk. Kyler staggered through the streets like a drunk. Something was wrong with him. He should feel something, but instead, there was only emptiness. It was like the blood on his hands had burst from some soul wound. The blood was drying now, getting sticky, the bright red fading to brown everywhere but inside his clenched fists. He hid his hands, hid the blood, hid himself, and his mind, less numb than his heart, knew that there was a point in this too. He would be a wet boy, and he would always be hiding. Kyler himself was a mask, an identity assumed for convenience. That mask and every other would fit, because before his training was done, every distinguished feature of the Azoth who had been would be obliterated. Every mask would fit, every mask would fool every inspector, because there would be nothing underneath those masks. Kyler couldn't wear his courier disguise into the Warrens. Couriers never went to the Warrens. Warren, sorry. So he headed to an east side safe house on the block crowded with tiny homes of artisans and those servants not housed at their lord's estates. He rounded a corner and ran straight into a girl. She would have gone sprawling if he hadn't grabbed her arms to catch her. Sorry, he said. His eyes took in a simple servant's white dress, hair bound back, and a basket full of fresh herbs. Last, he saw the gory red smears he'd just left on each of her sleeves. Before he could disappear, start running down the street, before she saw how he'd stained her, the arcs and crosses of scars on her face clicked into place like the pieces of a puzzle. They were white now, scars now, where he had branded them into his mind as deep red inflamed cuts. Burst tissue, dribbling blood, the rough scrape of mutated gurgle of blood being swallowed, blood bursting in little bubbles around a destroyed nose. He only had time to see unmistakable scars and unmistakable big brown eyes. Dollgirl looked down demurely, not recognizing this murderer as her Azoth. The downward glance showed her the gore on her sleeves, and she looked up, horror etched to every feature not already etched with scars. "My God," she said, "you're bleeding. Are you all right?" He was already running, sprinting heedlessly through the market. But no matter how fast he ran, he couldn't outrun the concern and the horror in those beautiful eyes. Those big brown eyes followed him. Somehow, he knew they always would. Chapter 25. We're probably going to end it there, though. That was a good little hour stream of reading. Finished up our tea just about. It makes me really sad that Azoth did everything he could to make sure Dollgirl was safe, and she is safe. You can't see it. You can't see her be safe. And I'm sure it hurts him so much. Same with Jarl, like, you're two best friends, and then you just kind of like grow apart, and you have new best friends, and you see them, and you're just like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's never a good feeling when you have friends that, I don't know, they just grow apart, you know? Things happen. Things happen. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not. But I hope everybody that stopped by enjoyed the couple chapters we read, and I will see everybody back Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Excuse me, I burped. I will see everybody back Wednesday at 6 p.m. We will be continuing more Blasphemous. There's a couple things we still need to go through. As well, we're going to need to get through that boss, Isadora. Then I will get the schedule set up, so I will have my streams for Thursday at, it'll probably be about 8:15 or 9 o'clock. Usually around that time is when we're going to be doing the reading streams. But I hope everybody's had a wonderful night. I hope you enjoyed the reading stream. Go check my YouTube. I have a whole playlist of all my VODs that I've done for the reading stream. So if you want to catch the beginning of this book, I have them all there on YouTube. Called the reading playlist. You can find it on my channel. Exclamation point links if you want to see where you can find me elsewhere. And I will catch you guys in the next. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your night. Good night.